Hey everybody, Mo here, and today I'm bringing you guys 5 tips on how to win a seasonal championship, or really how to win any tournament in a card game. So, for those of you that don't know, I'll introduce myself. My name is Mo, and I've been playing competitive card games for almost a decade now, and I'm pretty good at them. I've won the second biggest tournament you could possibly win in LOR. I've done everything you can do in Legends of Runeterra except for top 16 world championship. Hit rank 1 multiple times, multiple seasons. Like I said, won a seasonal championship, top cut multiple seasonal championships, qualified for both world championships we've had. So I know a thing or two about how to actually perform well and finish out a tournament. I know there are a bunch of players out there that can consistently do well in tournaments, but you notice they don't quite get the mark. They don't quite get that victory. So this video is more for those types of people and the people that are just trying to win their tournament. If you're wondering what does it take to actually win a tournament, hopefully these 5 tips can help you out. But before we get into this video, I wanted to remind you guys that 68% of the people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to me. So if you could do me a huge favor, click that subscribe button, leave a comment down below on if you have any extra tips or which tip here really helps you out. That helped me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. So that's gonna be it for the intro. Let's get into the video. So number 5 is to pick a lineup and decks that you are comfortable with. We're just going to jump right into LOR specifics. And while it's highly recommended to play the air quotes best lineup or the top tier decks, if you don't know how to play those decks well, then it doesn't matter how good the decks are. Over the course of 9 rounds, you're for sure going to make enough mistakes to just knock yourself out of the tournament. So a lot of people will preach to you, just play the best decks, play the good decks, play the good decks. And I too am really on board of this, on board the play the good deck strategy if you are comfortable with the good decks. With the seasonal championship that I won, and then the seasonal championship that I went 9-0 in the Swiss rounds, both of those seasonals I brought triple aggro because it's what I was the most comfortable with. It's what I knew how to play really well. I knew the whole matchup tables. I knew how to play against every meta deck. I knew how to play against, a bunch of the random decks. So even though triple aggro was not only seen as not the best lineup, it was often seen as just a bad lineup. Multiple people told me, oh, don't bring aggro, it's really bad. I can't believe you brought triple aggro, like you're so crazy. And then lo and behold, I go 9-0, have a perfect Swiss run, one of 2 people to do that in one seasonal. And then in the very next seasonal after that, I win the entire tournament with triple aggro, almost the exact same lineup. So that alone should show you that just picking decks that you're really good with and that you're really comfortable with is going to have a lot more value than just picking the top decks. Now, of course, if you can get really comfortable with the top decks, that's going to be the best case scenario, is to put your time and effort into learning the top 3 decks or the best, lineup, the best coherent lineup. So that way you're both really comfortable in these decks and they're just so good they're going to carry you a lot of the time. That over the course of 9 rounds, you're going to carry the deck 6 of them, and then the deck's going to carry you 3 of them, and then boom, you're qualified for top cut. So that obviously that's best case scenario, but if you're not at that level of play, or maybe you just don't have that much time to dedicate to LOR, then the number one thing I would recommend to you, the first thing is going to be play decks you're comfortable with. Tip number 4 is going to be intake helpful content. There are plenty of good streamers out there that'll teach you lessons for free while they're streaming, as well as YouTube videos that can help in this department also. These streamers are going to be like Majin Pei and Wadamaya and Shihu are the first 3 that come to mind. Alan sometimes, but Alan can give you a lot of not helpful content because he just throws in a lot of like funny moments. Same with the reason I don't name Aikato is because not that Aikato's not a good player, he's a phenomenal player. It's just a lot of these people's content is more for fun or they're entertainment streamers, whereas other streamers are just very much dedicated to just giving you good gameplay, good content, good tips, stuff like that. Like it's gonna be like the Yang Zeros, the Wadamayas, Majin Beis. BBG, when he streamed, was really good at this. He was not entertaining in the slightest, sorry BBG, but he was very good at what he did, and he was very good at teaching people how to, play good Legends of Runeterra. And that's one of the reasons why he was the second most popular streamer we had in our game whenever he did stream. So I would say, look for that on YouTube. There are plenty of content for this. Jay Sensational puts out a lot of YouTube guides. I myself, I put out a lot of deck guides. I put out a Meta Monday every week. So if you're trying to learn the meta, keep up with that. You can watch that. I have a Sweaty Thursday, which kind of gives you meta breakdown towards the end of the week, and really helps the people that can only play during the weekends or at nighttime, because you have a family, a job, a kid, anything like that. So you can't just grind LOR 10 hours a day like some of these college kids can. And some of the younger people can, or the people that don't have these families and commitments, and you just have a very crunch time, so you want to use that time wisely. I have series out for that as well. So I'm sure there are other content creators out there that do deck guides and stuff like that for LOR. I would just try and find someone that you really understand what they're saying, and it makes it easy for you to consume their knowledge, because not everyone speaks the same. I might speak in a cadence or may use words that you find very annoying or frustrating or hard to understand, and someone else could use different wording and different cadence and stuff like that, and we could say the exact same thing, but coming from them and how they say it is easier for you to understand, and that's fine. Go watch them, go do whatever it takes for you to get the best information you can get in, and so that way you have the most bang for your buck, and you're not wasting any time. Number 3, tip number 3 I would suggest is study your matchup tables and have tools open during banning phase for your matchups. So this is going back to the lineup. So you have to learn how to win each matchup, learn all the matchup tables. There are plenty of websites out there. You have Runeterra.ar, you have LOR stats, or I forgot their name, but it's like Legna. He's really good on Twitter. I'll have the link to his website down below. And his is amazing. You can put in all 3 of your decks, and then if you want to check specific matchups, you can do that. So let's say your lineup is going to be something like Jinx, Lulu, Aatrox, Kayn, Plunder, right? That won the most recent, major tournament mastering Runeterra from the Tank Buster. You can insert all 3 of those decks together, and then you want to say, okay, how does this matchup, or how does this lineup do into Field Rush? And then you insert Field Rush, and you say, oh, 2 of my decks are favored, one's unfavored. And you can just do that over and over and over again. And then you can just learn okay, well, I really need to learn these matchups because, this deck seems to be weak into these styles of matchups, and I want to have a game plan ready for it. So this is something that during ban phase, so I'm saying have tools open during ban phase. This is during the tournament. You get 5 minutes before you have to actually play your match and ban the opponent's decks, where you get to see their decks, see their full deck list. You can open up these, websites and type in okay, these are the 3 decks my opponents are bringing. These are my 3 decks. Let me see which one I have the best matchup into. Let me see which one's is there a deck that is just completely smokes all 3 of my decks? Is there a deck that all 3 of my decks beat really hard? Stuff like that. So you can kind of form your game plan and form your pick ban strategy. Even if you haven't played against the specific lineup, it's a good way to kind of get an on the go preparation, within a few minutes beforehand. So really want to study them. And then the last part of studying your matchups is going to be, there are going to be a lot of times where you see a matchup that's 60-40 not in your favor. So I don't know the actual stats right now, but we'll say Lulu Jinx into Field Rush is 40% Lulu Jinx and 60% Field Rush. Well, if you practice that matchup a lot with Lulu Jinx, you can find that 40% of how you win, and you can find a general game plan of, oh, whenever I open like this gives me the highest odds to win. So I'm going to do aggressive mulligans. I'm going to hard mulligan like this. I'm not going to keep bait cards in my mulligan. And I'm going to, play around these specific cards that make me lose. So for instance, if you're, losing that matchup because they get a really good avalanche on turn 3, then if you practice the matchup enough and then you learn something like that, you say, okay, well, if I just play around this avalanche on turn 3, my odds go up 5 or 10%. And now all of a sudden you turn this, statistically losing matchup into an even one or even a favored one in your favor if you just spend a little time, practicing, find a scrim partner, just play on ladder a lot, stuff like that with your deck. And then you can just sometimes just skill diff your opponent because you simply have more knowledge than them. Tip number 2 is going to be practice, practice, practice. So now that you have your lineup picked, you're studying the matchup tables, the next thing you can do in final step is to practice. And no, I'm not talking about jamming games on ladder. I will say this 1,000,001 times. Playing ladder to learn how your deck functions is really, really good in the sense of, oh, you can jam 100 games with your deck really quickly. And now you know all the ins and outs of your deck. But to learn very specific matchups and to learn how you will do in a competitive tournament setting, the best way to practice that in a competitive, setting in best of 3. Scrim against players that you think are better than you. I know a lot of people like, what am I? The Mo's hosts open scrims on his stream. Every time during seasonals comes around, he hits a high rank really early, he camps on ladder, and then he just opens his stream up to scrims for the last 2 weeks of the season. So if you go into a stream and just get to scrim, the best tournament player we've ever had in LOR for free. He doesn't charge you. He doesn't put subs first as far as I'm aware. He just says, hey everyone, get in here and, scrim me. Yeah, it's a good way to get practice. Scrim your friends. Play Seasonal Gauntlet. Is Seasonal Gauntlet the most competitive, environment? No, but it still gets you the feeling of, hey, I'm going to do best of 3. I'm going to play against these 3 random decks against an opponent that's kind of a whatever tier level, but it gets you in the motions and lets you practice. There's a big saying like, oh, practice makes perfect. People have figured out that's not true. Perfect practice makes perfect. So whenever you go to do these scrims, put on the music, pretend like it's an actual tournament, and just try your ass off to go ahead and practice and pretend you're in a seasonal top cut. You're in that seasonal, top 8, and play exactly like you would in that top 8. So that way when the time comes and you're playing in the seasonal tournament, it doesn't feel as foreign. You can, trick yourself into feeling like you've been here before. You've put on the same song, you've, listened to the same thing, you've done these same steps beforehand to make this feel really familiar to you. So that way you don't get the jitters or feel stressed out or anything like that. And the number one tip I can give to you guys, anyone playing in a tournament, new player, old player, I literally had a world's competitive player, like a world top 16 world's competitor, ask me about this recently at those last recent worlds, is don't be nervous. It's like, just try and do your best. I know just saying like, oh, just don't be nervous, forehead, but just remember that you're much more than any amount of prize money you could have won and that you ended up not winning. You're more than any placement, whether you got, top 8, top 32, didn't even make top 32, the fact that you even qualified for seasonal or didn't qualify, just remember that you're more than anything like that. There will be hundreds of Legends of Runeterra tournaments and card game tournaments for you to play in the future. Don't let one tournament define you as a player. Don't let it determine your mood or your mental outside the game. There's so much more than just playing in one tournament or even playing in like a year's worth of tournaments. I have a friend who didn't have a very good year or 2 years playing LOR competitively, and he just wanted to give up. And I just, got to remind you guys that card games are solo sports where you're just consistently playing against yourself to become a better player after every single training session. So that's it. Those are my 5 tips on how to win a tournament. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like this more like advanced competitive content or this competitive content, make sure to like down below and let me know that in the comments. And then join my Discord. Discord is the #1 place for competitive LOR content. People are in there constantly trying to find scrims, talk about LOR, talk about the meta, showing off their goals like, oh, hey, I just hit Masters, just hit Diamond, this is what I used, stuff like that. So if you're interested in that type of competitive LOR content, my Discord is the place to be. Links down in the description below. That's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.